Carl DeMaio Show. We're giving you the story behind the story. We're fighting to take back our state for a better California. Happy New Year's, everyone. And what I want to do is spend a little bit of time reflecting on the last year and the top stories that I really focused on the most. Now, there's a lot of stories that we talked about on the Kogo Show and also on this podcast that I've talked about in the course of the campaign so far. But here are the top 5 stories, I think, that caught my eye. That I think will continue to reverberate from 2019. Number 1, the Russia hoax and the subsequent impeachment. I put these all in the same mix. Here's why. This is an effort by the Democrats to undo an election. They started the impeachment of Donald Trump in 2016, even before the final ballots were counted. They were furious that Hillary had lost. And they said that this guy must have cheated. It doesn't matter if it was true or not. Let's just go out there and smear him. It was a witch hunt from day one. They couldn't find anything on the guy, and they just decided, well, it doesn't matter. We don't need a crime. Let's just impeach him. And they've done great damage to our democracy every step of the way. The media has been in on it. It's been fake news. And remember, we've been lied to for 3 years now. More than 3 years, 3.5 years. Lied to. And every time that they say, breaking news, and then they say, Donald Trump was caught doing this, Donald Trump did that and the other thing, Donald Trump had a meeting with Putin, and Donald Trump promised this. They find out later on it never happened, but they never issue a correction, do they? So Mueller's report was supposed to be a bombshell. Russia collusion, clear evidence. Nope. No collusion. And then it was, well, maybe he obstructed. Nope. Mueller said, I don't have a case for obstruction. So then that one was dropped pretty quickly. Got to walk away from that big hoax. They went on with Ukraine. And now we got the impeachment and that process that plays out. So look, it's been a mess, but the story is the same. Democrats are trying to overturn the results of an election. They are lying about our president. They are abusing the powers of the Department of Justice, the powers of impeachment in Congress. They are engaging in a witch hunt. And as a result, not only are good people being hurt, but more importantly, the issues that we care about, the American people, those are being pushed off to the side. We're not having a substantive debate in this country about issues that people care about. Number 2, socialism. You say, well, what do you mean socialism? Well, here's what I mean. I use this. This is the second biggest story of 2019 after the witch hunt, narrative. Socialism is the second biggest story because it encompasses the Green New Deal that was introduced in January by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It encompasses the free college being offered by a variety of Democrat candidates. Debt forgiveness, free stuff, free Medicare for all, government takeover of our health care, the universal income, from that guy Yang, $1,000 per month guaranteed. It's socialism. A government that can offer you everything you want can also take everything you have. And in fact, it does start by taking everything you have with your freedom. The first thing on the list. Your money is usually second. Your freedom is always the first thing they take. You just don't realize it. You think they're taking your money first and then the freedom comes. Nope. They take your freedom first because the notion is that government knows how to spend your money better than you do and has a right to take your money and distribute it to others. That is socialism. There's no other definition for it. And so the media gets upset when I talk about California's a socialist state. What do you? That's extremist rhetoric, Carl. It's pretty accurate. Look up the definition of socialism in the dictionary. That's the philosophy that the Democrat Party now has embraced, and I think that's a pretty damn big story. And it is now. It's even a label that they are proud of. They say, "Well, yeah, socialism isn't a bad thing; it's a good thing." They like to call it progressive sometimes, but it mainly is they talk about themselves being Democrat socialists, and they don't walk away from that title. But their policies, all the policy proposals, have socialism at the heart. Big story that people didn't want to cover this year. Number 3, locally, the Sandag road raids, and of course the associated state gas tax raids. This is where we've got the politicians locally at Sandag, the San Diego Transportation Agency, but also in the state of California, stealing sales tax and gas tax and car tax money that was supposed to go to road projects and diverting it to climate change. Anything else but the roads. And so I think this is a pretty damn big story because it ties into things like communities being upset about development projects. They don't want new houses to go in because, boy, that's going to clog up the already, tight freeways. It's something that we all are upset about because our commutes are pretty long and we're not getting the traffic relief that we deserve. Or the roads, particularly after the recent rainstorms we've been having, roads are chock full of potholes. And the money goes into pricey transit, bike lane, road diets, high-speed rail. Oh, isn't it so nice to be liberal? That's where the money's going. And it's a violation of public trust because we were told we were going to get road projects. We were told it was earmarked for road projects. And now they're stealing it, hoping we don't notice and saying, well, guess what? We make the rules. You're just going to have to accept it. Sandag and their efforts to steal our road money and Gavin Newsom's decision to transfer gas tax money, the biggest story locally and statewide in 2019, particularly after the gas tax fight last year, okay? They didn't even let the body cool before they went and stole the money. Other big stories, I'm going to call this one feckless Republicans, cowardly Republicans, turncoat Republicans. I'm talking about how 2019 started out with our very own San Diego Assembly member Brian Mainstein leaving the Republican Party after the Republican Party gave him $1 million for his race in 2018. Stole the money, took the money. Now he's a perfect voting Democrat. No principles whatsoever. How about Mark Kersey? Oh, yes, his political career is ending very soon, thankfully. Kersey, who's afraid of his own shadow, I've nicknamed him Low Energy. And in fact, you have to say it that way. Whenever Mark Kersey's name comes up, you just have to say, low energy. Mark Kersey left the Republican Party because it became fashionable, too afraid to be a Republican. So now he's calls himself an independent. We've got Chad Mays, assembly member in Palm Springs, voted for the massive cap and trade gas tax, trashed Republicans all along, took their money, took their endorsement, and boom, the day before filing was over, actually the day of filing being over, he switched parties to an independent on his way to being a Democrat. Cowardly Republicans. That's a big story in 2019. They're now actually changing their parties to put a finer point on the fact that they actually aren't really fighting for Republican principles and taking Republican positions and advancing them in their offices. And then finally, the fifth biggest story in 2019 has to be illegal immigration. Here's why. We've had this issue for decades, but I think it finally reached an inflection point in 2019 because the president finally said, I'm not going to cave. I'm not going to cower. I'm going to get this done. Remember, we left 2018 with a government shutdown. And we had the president saying, I want my money for my wall. And then the president finally said, all right, I'll reopen government, but I'm using the emergency powers afforded me under a variety of statutes to shift money in the appropriations process and get the money I need for building a wall. He's won in court, by the way. And he's won a number of other legal battles. And he is finally turning the tide on the surge of these migrant caravans on our southern border. He threatened to turn off the trade spigot with Mexico unless they played ball and coordinated and cooperated and did more to stop the flow of refugees. And guess what? Mexico actually accommodated the president. By every measure, the media mocked, opposed, and derided the president's efforts to secure the border. And guess what? He succeeded. They were mocking him. Oh, it's never going to work. Oh, it's just for show. But guess what? he won on each of these points. He never got the credit he deserved. And no, I'm not saying that it's done. We have a lot more to do on the border, and that's why I have my 5-point plan. It's something we're going to be talking about a lot in this election. I've got 5 town halls in January alone on this issue of securing the border. But I think that in 2019, we finally hit the point where the American people saw that this president, is serious and real about securing the border, that he's making progress, that he's winning the battles, that he's getting the money, he's putting the infrastructure in, he's getting the staffing in place, and 70% of the American people like it. Despite everything the media threw at the president about caged children, fake news, people drinking from toilets, fake news, the president was able to make progress and win on the issue, and people are happy for that. And as a result, the problem is starting to get better. Those are my top stories in 2019. We have a lot to talk about in 2020, but the number one story I think we're going to see in 2020, there's a lot of stories that we're going to see in 2020, but the number one, some upstart reformer in San Diego took on not one, but multiple Republican establishment politicians and the Democrat machine, and ended up winning a congressional seat. And in doing so, creates a model in California for how Republicans fight back. You know who that candidate could be? All right. It's not a lack of humility. It's not me as a candidate. It's our movement. And I'm proud of what we've done in 2019. And I cannot wait to see what we do in 2020. And I invite you to continue to follow us and continue to be part of the movement, because there's nothing but the sky's the limit for what we're going to do in 2020. So join us at carldemaio.com and have a wonderful, wonderful start to the year. Thank you. This podcast was paid for by Carl DeMaio for Congress. I'm Carl DeMaio, and I approved this message.